There are rich people, and then there's John D. Rockefeller. We're not just talking about the world's first billionaire. We're talking about one of the most dominant, feared, and, yeah, controversial figures in all of history. He built an empire so powerful it controlled an entire industry and could make governments sweat.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? That quote sums it all up. Rockefeller's life is this incredible case study of what happens when ambition, discipline, and absolute ruthlessness are unleashed on the world, completely unchecked. So to really get a handle on the man who would basically conquer the world of oil, we have to go all the way back to the beginning, back to the, let's just say, chaotic world he was born into. His childhood was this constant tug of war between two totally opposite forces. On one side, you have his father, Devil Bill. This guy was a literal con artist, selling fake miracle cures. He even had a secret second family. Just constant chaos. And then on the other side, you have his mother, Eliza, who was the anchor. Deeply religious, all about discipline and duty. That combination created a man who craved order more than anything, but was also perfectly comfortable with using deception to get it. So his early life really became all about focus. He actually dropped out of high school to help support his family, and he finally landed his first real job as a bookkeeper. Now get this, that day, that moment of stability was so important to him that for the rest of his life, he celebrated its anniversary. He called it Job Day, more than his own birthday. And it was that same desire for order that led him to see an opportunity, not in the wild mess of drilling for oil, but in the much more predictable business of refining it. And this wasn't just some daydream. He would literally repeat this to himself over and over. From the very start, Rockefeller believed that getting rich wasn't just a goal, it was his destiny. So, how did that single-minded ambition turn into Standard Oil? Well, this is where we see him build the most powerful monopoly the world had ever seen. It got a nickname, the octopus, because its tentacles reached into everything. Rockefeller teamed up with a partner, a guy named Henry Flagler. Flagler shared his ambition and his discipline, but he was even more ruthless. Flagler's philosophy was simple. Business isn't a game, it's war. And the only way to win a war is to completely and totally crush your enemy. Rockefeller made that philosophy his own. And this right here, this was his secret weapon, railroad rebates. By guaranteeing the railroads huge amounts of business day in and day out, he negotiated these secret deals. So while all his competitors were paying full price to ship a barrel of oil, he was paying just a tiny fraction of that. It was this legally murky tactic that gave him an invisible and totally unbeatable advantage. And he used that advantage like a playbook. It was brutal and incredibly effective. Step 1. Get the secret discounts. Step 2, slash the price of your oil so low that nobody else can possibly compete. Step 3, just wait for them to go bankrupt. And the final step, step 4, swoop in and buy up their ruined companies for pennies on the dollar. And the speed of his takeover was just terrifying. In what became known as the Cleveland Massacre, he used a mix of fear and his secret price advantage to basically swallow the city's entire oil industry in just 6 weeks. 22 of his 26 competitors were gone, just like that. The message was crystal clear. You either join us or we will destroy you. And the result of all of this? Well, at its absolute peak, Standard Oil controlled a staggering 90% of all oil refining in the United States. He hadn't just won the game, he owned the entire board. But, that kind of power, it doesn't go unnoticed. The very same tactics that built his empire also made him one of the most hated men in America. And a very, very powerful list of enemies started to line up against him. The press absolutely turned on him. He went from being a symbol of the American dream to being a predator. Newspapers started capturing the public mood, calling his company a monster that was literally strangling the life out of the country. And the fight started coming from every direction. You had Ida Tarbell, an incredible investigative journalist whose own father had been ruined by him, and she exposed his secret methods to the world. You had the President of the United States, Teddy Roosevelt, who made trust-busting his signature mission. And of course, you had the American public, who were just screaming for his head. It all came to a head in this historic lawsuit. The U.S. government finally took Standard Oil to court, hitting them with everything, violating antitrust laws, predatory pricing, operating an illegal monopoly. The evidence, from the secret railroad deals to corporate spying, it was overwhelming. guilty, guilty, guilty. And the verdict from the Supreme Court was a bombshell. After 41 years of total dominance, the court ordered that the octopus had to be broken apart. John D. Rockefeller's empire was officially going to be dismantled. Now, this should have been it, right? His greatest defeat. The end of the story. But what happened next is the great, unbelievable irony of Rockefeller's life. And it's what makes his legacy so incredibly complicated. Get this. The government-ordered breakup of Standard Oil is what made Rockefeller the world's first billionaire. See, when his single massive company was split into 34 smaller independent ones, the value of his shares in all of those new companies went through the roof. The sum of the parts turned out to be worth way, way more than the whole. In losing his monopoly, he stumbled into an absolutely unimaginable fortune. So what does he do with all that money? He starts a second act, and he applies the exact same efficiency and grand scale from his business to charity. We're talking staggering amounts of money, over $540 million in his lifetime, which is tens of billions in today's money. He funded the medical research that helped wipe out diseases like hookworm and malaria, and established universities and foundations that are still around today. And this quote from his biographer really just nails the central conflict of his life. The very same man who crushed families and corrupted entire industries also saved countless lives and pushed human knowledge forward on a global scale.
So that leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? Ruthless monopolist or pioneering philanthropist? Can both of those things be true at the same time? Was he a villain who just tried to buy himself a better reputation at the end? Or was he some kind of complex visionary whose impact for both good and evil was just too massive to fit neatly into one box? The answer, I think, is as complicated as the man himself.